Welcome everyone back to weekly weather updates, and in today's video we're going to have the latest on the very cold conditions that we are seeing at the moment, as we are now all in very cold Arctic air. As we head over the next day or two, it's going to remain fairly dry, a few wintry showers around, but it's really through Saturday into Sunday and Monday where there is quite a high risk of significant snow in certain regions. Quite a few areas as well won't see significant snow, but we'll still see some falling snow and maybe even some temporary accumulations. And this is because we've got this big low pressure system pushing up from the south. We've been tracking it for a number of days now, and it has been chopping and changing with its positioning. But we're finally seeing some proper consistency on its track, and it looks likely to kind of move through the Midlands. That's where the centre of the low will be. To the south of that, it will be rain, at least after initial band of snow. To the north of that, though, we remain in the very cold air for the full duration of the event, and that means some areas across northern England, North Wales and southern Scotland, especially the higher ground, as there will be less marginality at play, we could see about a foot of snow, maybe even more. We are seeing significant accumulations from most of the runs now. Of course, there's still some deviations and there'll still be some uncertainty even as we do head into the event. But we will have a look at the various short-range runs today to give the best estimates we can. And of course, we'll look at the latest weather warnings as they have also been updated to reflect the increased certainty that we've seen today. In the second half of the video, we'll also look at the longer range, as regardless of where you are, cold air is going to move back into Monday and Tuesday next week. So yes, in the far south, we are probably going to get to 10 or 11 degrees by Sunday afternoon. But by Monday and Tuesday, we're back down towards the low single digits, if not towards freezing, as this sort of weather front that's moving through with the mild air really is a blip, and we'll see that well emphasised in the ensembles at the end of the video. So do remember, if you enjoy the videos, make sure you like and subscribe. Remember to follow me on Twitter as well, the link's in the description. So if you do now start on the live radar, you can see we're all in very cold air mass at the moment. As we head through this evening, we are going to see temperatures plummeting, even in cities and towards coast. Temperatures pretty much everywhere will be freezing or below freezing. -5 to -10 is possible in rural areas. Still some wintry showers around, but the main area of precipitation is this weather front that did move through on New Year's Day, and it's well to our south now, giving you a bit of a mix of rain and snow there across southern parts of Europe. You can see, if we look at our shores, you can see where we're near to coasts, where we've got convection taking place in this northerly flow, we have got snow showers packing in. Most prevalent across northern Scotland, parts of northeastern England, perhaps towards the Irish Sea as well. But we're not expecting anything too major, as the pressure is pretty high at the moment. It's one weather front that's sat out near the Azores at the moment. When that moves in, that's going to bring the risk of significant snow. If you look at the temperatures, you can see it is exceptionally cold tonight. We're calling this around 7:30, so still pretty early on in the evening, and you already see lighter blues pretty much everywhere, and that is temperatures at 0 or below, and it is just going to continue to drop over the coming hours. We're seeing this really cold Arctic feed coming in. You can see where the air is originating from Iceland towards Scandinavia, this area. You can see here the land masses are very cold, down towards -15 or -20. So it is an exceptionally cold northerly wind. And to be honest, I thought this would hold out against the warm air mass that's moving through in the weekend. But it does look like that battle will be lost, at least for southern England, and the dividing lines will be somewhere across northern England. Now, if you look at the latest weather warnings, we have got weather warnings issued for the next 5 days. This evening, we've got an ice warning issued for parts of Western Wales until 10 AM tomorrow. Again, it's for wintry showers. So not expecting anything major. 1 to 2 centimetres possible in a few spots, but it's where we've seen a few showers earlier on today, or a few wintry showers tonight. With the ground being frozen, it will readily settle. Any snow or any moisture will readily freeze. So these areas have a higher risk of ice. The same can be said for this ice warning issued for western parts of Scotland, parts of Northern Ireland and Northern England, again until 10 AM tomorrow. Again, we're not expecting anything major in terms of accumulating snow. We're just expecting very slick surfaces where we see a few showers overnight tonight, and we've had some moisture through today. A few showers today, meaning the ground could have quite a lot of ice. But we do have a snow and ice warning here for northern and eastern Scotland up towards the Northern Isles until 10 AM tomorrow. Again, there could be 3 to 7 centimetres in a few spots, maybe even 10 centimetres, so significant. But of course, not too unusual in a northerly wind in these locations. Northern and eastern Scotland pretty much is the place to be if you want snow from a flat north to northeasterly wind. Of course, getting all that moisture coming right off the North Sea, these areas do get pasted by those convective showers. And into Friday, we have all those warnings still in force, and then we get those new warnings issued for the weekend. Now, we've got this snow warning. Yesterday, it was issued, but it's now been upgraded to a snow and ice warning, and expires now at Sunday midnight, not into Monday. That's because a different warning is now in force for Monday. Heavy snow and some freezing rain in places may cause some disruption. So although I think the main area of significant snow will be Midlands, Northern England at the southernmost end, up towards potentially the central belt, that area, that's where I think the most significant accumulating snow will be, especially higher ground, even as far south as London across to South Wales. We'll see falling snow and potentially even a few centimetres through Saturday evening into Sunday morning. Although, yes, there is still quite a lot of uncertainty, exact timings of any transition for these areas further southwards, it does look very likely all runs pretty much now do develop some sort of transition. So not expecting the dividing line between the cold and mild to sit in the south for too long. So maybe 6 hours, 9 hours maybe on some of the more optimistic runs of heavy snow before it all turns to rain Sunday evening into Monday. You can see here we're expecting 20 to 30 centimetres over higher ground of mid-North Wales, over parts of the Pennines up to 40 centimetres, so we're getting a foot to 2 feet of snow. And you can see where mild air moves northwards, there may even be some freezing rain. This is where the surface temperatures are still close to freezing, but the upper air temperatures are above freezing. So rain is falling out of the sky, falling into a very cold layer of air at the surface and freezing. Now, it is quite unusual in the UK because it only occurs when we have very strong temperature contrasts, because we need that mild air to try and push that cold air away and have little success at the surface because of the temperature contrast. But in this scenario, we've almost got 15-degree temperature change in the upper air temperature level, which means freezing rain is a real possibility. We had a few ice storms over the past 5 to 10 years, but they're not too common. A lot of freezing rain, I think, occurred a couple of years ago when we did have a west to east weather front. And of course, we did see some freezing rain with the beast from the east back in 2018, but not too many events have had significant ice. Not sure if we will see significant ice in this stage. It is so uncertain. All depends on the speed of the transition of the air masses, but definitely is a real possibility here across parts of Wales and the Midlands, right on that dividing line. There could be some areas that go from snow to freezing rain, then maybe even back to snow after. There could be a real eclectic mix around of different conditions. At the moment, it is medium impact, very low likelihood, but once again, I suspect within the next 24 to 36 hours, we will see some of this removed, adjusted, potentially upgraded as well. From the looks of it, I do expect an amber warning to be issued. I just think the Met Office are holding off at this stage, just because there is still a great deal of uncertainty, exactly the precipitation timing and the amount, the depth of the low pressure system, both affects whether it's rain or snow, and the amount of precipitation. Into Sunday, we still have that snow and ice warning, but then we have a separate snow warning, as this is where we expect the northern edge of the weather fronts to be. Now, in this area, we're expecting all snow. We're not expecting much mixing at all. Maybe the far eastern edge, as we do see potentially some milder air riding around the eastern side of the low, but generally, we're expecting in Scotland it to all remain as snow through Sunday into Monday, but perhaps not the heaviest stuff here, because we expect the most significant snow to be slightly further south, the most significant precipitation. I'll emphasise that. 10 to 20 centimetres is still possible, so still a lot of snow, but the highest totals, I think, expected north of sort of Liverpool, Manchester, Sheffield. In this area up towards the Pennines, maybe even the Peak District. That's where I think we will see those really, really high totals. And as I said, somewhere within here, I do expect to see an amber warning issued in the next day or so. And then we've got that snow warning lasting into Monday, as there is even the risk for northern England on the most pessimistic runs of rain mixing in a little bit here. So still a lot of uncertainty, but I think quite a few will see snow through this weekend. Just now, I think the significant, accumulated, long-lasting snow will be more confined to those northern areas. There was a lot of uncertainty, and of course we have spoken about snow further southwards. We will see some, but it just won't be the sort of big pasting that I think some people are looking for. It has been unfortunate, of course. I kind of would like to see a bit of snow. Not seen some snow where I am for a good few years, down towards London. I still think I will see some falling snow, maybe even a few hours of falling snow, 3, 4, 5 hours possible, but just not expecting anything too major at this stage, unless we have a massive model flop and the low is miles further southwards. But I'm not expecting a 200-300 mile shift in the low pressure system at this stage. Maybe 50 miles is possible, which does again take some of the Midlands in there, but I'm not expecting anything too massive at this stage. Now, I do just want to compare some of the shorter range runs now. We've, of course, focused on sort of the GFS, GM, ECMWF, but at this time frame, it's best to look at those higher resolution runs. So we're going to look at the UKV, the Arpege, and the Icon, which do have differing scenarios, but fortunately, they do all pretty much agree with their rough positioning. As I said, still a few tens of miles uncertainty, maybe 50 miles uncertainty, but all roughly agree where the heaviest mounts will be. Now, if you do head over the coming hours, it's going to be pretty dry, maybe some more substantial snow there for parts of Scotland, as those showers really do pep up, and that's why I think we got that snow and ice warning. It's a classic convection event there for northern and eastern Scotland. Into Friday, though, it's going to be very cold, but it is going to be mostly dry. A few showers crossing, and again, they will fall as snow. Ready and loud. Again, I wouldn't take these precipitation timings too literally. Again, most of this will be snow, or at least a wintry mix. And then as we head into Saturday, cloud builds in. It'll be a very cold day, as the precipitation doesn't arrive until latter part of the afternoon. And even down towards the southwest, expecting snow initially. The cold air is very cold, so it does mean on the leading edge there will be snow pretty much everywhere. But you can slowly see it turns back to rain on the back edge of the initial weather front, and you see a significant spell of snow, potentially even towards the east and southeast through Saturday night. Maybe even 3 to 6 hours worth of snow, for eventually all of that snow pulls northwards, and to the south of this, still rain, but it is going to be pretty mild through Sunday. I said 11, 12 degrees is possible. And then it's here, across the Pennines, southern Scotland. That's where we're expecting the most significant amount of snow. As I said, this could be 50 miles further southwards. So even these areas in the Midlands, the far north of England, Peak District, which here would actually be in the mild air, would see temperatures get a good few degrees above freezing, wouldn't discount this being slightly further southwards. That's a good sort of degree of uncertainty I think we're looking at now. I don't think there's a chance that this shifts a couple hundred miles south towards southern England, as I know a lot of people are watching from the south, southeast or southwest, and of course always looking for snow, as these areas are the worst for getting snow, of course being further southwards. And I don't think we're going to see that shift at this time frame, unfortunately. It was possible a day or two ago, but now I don't think it is in the scope. But if you're in the Midlands, North Wales, you're seeing rain here, I wouldn't be surprised if the low was slightly further southwards than we're seeing. Eventually, we do see the low pull away, but you can see there is a good 12 to maybe 18 hours worth of snow there for eastern Scotland and northern England, before eventually all pulling away back into that very cold air. Some really heavy snow there for northeastern England and eastern Scotland, as we'll see a couple other runs not showing this, and that is all due to the centre of the low, how quickly it pulls away, but more significant snow in places here, eventually pulling away, and then you'll all go into this very cold northerly flow. There is a risk next week as well, again we won't cover it in this video because we want to concentrate on the weekend, of further small areas and disturbances developing further southwards, as we do start to see the high pressure toppling a little bit, but there is still massive uncertainty how next week develops. Of course, we've not got massive consensus on the exact exit of that low through Monday and Tuesday. Until we see that, then it will be very difficult to forecast next week. But at the moment, we're expecting it to go back to similar conditions to what we have right now, which is a cold northerly flow, very chilly, frosty, with some snow showers and maybe some further disturbances. If we watch the evolution of the upper air temperatures, you can see it's exceptionally cold at the moment. It is going to get even colder through Friday. Look at that, minus 12 isotherm heads in for eastern Scotland. That is some of the coldest air we've seen all winter, and potentially for a couple of years. As we develop into Saturday though, the very mild air starts to push in from the southwest. 15 to 20 degree temperature clash there through Saturday evening. Initially all in the cold air, snow on the leading edge through Saturday evening, even into Sunday morning, before you can see the big mild wedge pushing in. Again, it's here, North Wales, Northern England to the Midlands, where I think there could be a little shift. But I emphasise, not expecting it to get to East Anglia, Southern England, no chance to South East or Southwest. Again, could be completely wrong, but I think there's a 1% chance or less than 1% chance of that happening. But through Monday, we all go into the cold air. It's not a particularly quick transition. Again, there is still some uncertainty exactly how quick it will be. If it's faster transition, there's risk of some back edge snow. But if it's a slower transition like this, where it takes a number of hours for us to get snow-worthy air back in, then I think we will see all the weather fronts clear before that very cold air gets back in for most areas. And you can see we're back into very cold air for early next week. Maybe not quite as cold as now, but still cold enough to see temperatures low single digits and to see snow. If you look at the max temperatures, you can see overnight tonight temperatures are freezing cold, down towards -3 or lower, maybe even -5 to -10 in a few spots. And during tomorrow, temperatures not expecting to get much above 2 to 4 degrees. Once again, much colder further northwards as well. And into Saturday, it's another freezing cold day. Temperatures, again, not much above 1 to 4. And then as the snow arrives, it will be very cold. But look what happens to those temperatures. 6 a.m. on Sunday, still widely freezing. Same areas, London for example, 13 degrees by Sunday afternoon. So in the space of 6 to 9 hours, 15 degree temperature rise. And again, it's all where that dividing line sets up across northern England. That will decide where the rain snow divide will be. And of course, in those areas where we start to see rain falling as the upper air temperatures rise, but still freezing at the surface, that's where we could see some freezing rain. As you can see, still pretty mild through Sunday evening, but into Monday, we're all back into the very cold air and back down to kind of 3 to 5 degrees through Monday, and similar conditions into Tuesday with harsh overnight frosts. If you look at the snow depth, you can see as we head through Saturday evening, we are looking at some pretty widespread snow, even across southern England and maybe even southeastern England, a few centimetres. But it will have all dissipated by Sunday afternoon, and then you can see by the evening the snow totals really totting up through Scotland, some parts of Republic of Ireland, Northern Ireland and Northern England, mainly over the higher ground, but low-lying areas as well will see significant snow. It's just slightly more marginal with that milder air moving in. But you see potentially half a metre of snow there in some areas, a good few feet, and maybe even up to a metre in a few spots. Ridiculous amounts of snow there across the higher ground into Tuesday. So it does look like, once again, it's another event that will be mainly high ground focused. But, again, that is, of course, where the highest risk is always with snow because of the elevation. But even low-lying areas, as I said, will still see some significant snow. And even areas that will see rain for a long time on Sunday will still see some front edge snowfall. Now, if you compare to the arpège, again, we won't look at this in as much detail, but again, just to compare with the positioning of the low, snow showers continue to pack in, and then as we head into Saturday, bumping into that cold air, we see widespread snow, even across parts of the southeast, all the way through to Sunday morning, but eventually that snow line lifts northward. It takes a lot longer here, I will admit, and eventually it does start to linger across northern England and parts of Wales. Look at this Sunday afternoon, still snow in the Midlands there. Perhaps, so again, arpège slightly further southwards, interesting with that, for eventually it does all clear away into Monday, and then we see again some more back-edge snowfall and small little disturbances developing. Again, could bring some further snow into next week. If we do compare to the icon, which has been a little bit all over the place the last couple of days, it has had some really southerly tracking runs, but it's mostly in agreement now with the very cold conditions. As we do progress into Saturday, again, heavy snowfall developing on the leading edge of this system. Eventually that snow line lifts northwards through Sunday morning, probably around sunrise it starts to really shift northwards, and then again it's those northern England, Scotland, southern Scotland, potentially eastern Scotland where we start to see lots of heavy snow, eventually all clearing, and then seeing that very strong north to northeasterly wind, or northwesterly wind at least initially, pushing in for early next week. And again, if we look at the snow depth, you can see widespread falling snow and accumulating snow, especially across Wales, the West Midlands there through Sunday morning, But it's really those northern areas into Monday and Tuesday where, again, we're seeing more significant snow. So you can pretty much see the three models are all roughly in agreement with the positioning. Still a few tens of miles of discrepancy, but again, I'm not expecting anything too major to change in the coming hours. There's always the risk with these sorts of events. We don't normally pay this much attention to these lows, but it's because we've got cold air involved, which means snow, which means everyone pays attention to these small subtle shifts that normally we wouldn't really care much about. But in this case, it could be the difference between 5 centimetres of snow and then some slush and rain, or 10 to 20 centimetres of big powdery drifting snow. Those are the sort of discrepancies that we could see if this weather front and the mild cold sectors shift by a few tens of miles. There is still quite a lot at stake, but I do think we've pretty much got it roughly nailed on now where the highest risk regions will be. And of course, I'll keep you updated in the next couple of days, as I do expect an amber warning to be issued across those areas of northern England, southern Scotland, and maybe eastern Scotland. And of course, that will come in the next day or two. Now, I just want to finish the video by looking at the longer range, of course, because after Sunday and Monday, it still remains cold, and there is the risk of further very cold, icy conditions, and maybe even some snow. You see the low approaching through Sunday, eventually it clears, and we see that very cold north to northwesterly wind. In this case, the high pressure towards Greenland isn't actually as strong as we thought it would be, or maybe a week ago. It has weakened significantly for next week, but it will still remain cold and still remain blocked for most of the week, as we do continue to see northeasterly winds. The high pressure loses its strength towards Greenland, it slowly migrates back towards us, so it keeps the end of the week pretty dry, but it develops towards Scandinavia, which does mean it attempts to push in easterly winds. Now, it doesn't have major success at this stage. We are seeing chilly continental air, but it's not a beast from the east. We've not got this exceptionally cold air because the high pressure isn't far enough northwards, and it's not allowed very cold air to push into Eastern Europe yet. The jet stream is a little bit too strong to allow it to push northwards, but it will still be frosty, still be cold, and there is some cold air still trying to push in from the east. So there's a risk as we develop into the second half of January, if this Scandinavian high really got going, that we could turn very cold once again. We'd likely remain chilly in this period, nowhere near as cold as we are right now, but still mid-single digits, maybe overnight frosts, but probably no chance of any snow or anything too major in terms of wintry conditions, but definitely the possibility of something further cold, as this still keeps us pretty blocked through the coldest month of the year. So we need to keep an eye on this longer range, as it is a slightly different pattern to what we have now, but it equally could develop significant cold for the second half of the month. And it is a very slow transition, but it is a cold transition. We stay, especially in the east and the south, coincidentally, the areas not seeing the significant snow or not expect to see as much snow this weekend, those areas are likely to be the coldest in this sort of pattern with that easterly flow. And to compare to the GM, very similar, low pressure pushing in, developing out to our east, very strong northerly winds develop for the rest of next week. And again, these small little disturbances, weak low pressure systems, could bump into the cold and we could see further snow in the south. That is a real possibility. You can see here the GM does actually develop some snow further southwards mid next week. So that is something to keep an eye on. 10 centimetres here from the GM. So yes, missing out maybe on the major snow this weekend, but GM has the risk here late next week. So it is definitely a possibility. It's another very marginal event, but just shows you still could occur. But it isn't as the high pressure does start to break down though. And again, you can see it developing towards Scandinavia. Not quite as far northwards as the GFS, which does mean milder air does push in. But again, could be sort of before we go colder once again. And finally, if we compare it to the ECMWF, again, low pressure pushing through, very cold northerly winds develop. Potentially again, these minor little lows developing mid next week could produce some more significant snow. And eventually high pressure building towards Scandinavia, trying to push easterly winds in. But once again, very mild air gets convected further northwards. Cold air is very close by. You can see across Europe it is still very chilly, but we are in the milder sector here. there is a strong possibility this pushes northwards and develops another big area of blocking high towards Iceland and Scandinavia. That is a real possibility. But at the moment, it does look like the high pressure will be sat close by. Still pretty chilly, but would cut out the wintry risk. Finally, if we finish by looking at the latest ensembles, the latest GFS, very cold at the moment, mild spike this weekend, could be some snow mixing in of course, and then much colder next week, still a bit of uncertainty later next week, but pretty cold, good 5+ degrees below average, and then a slow descent back towards average or maybe above average. Again, all depends on that high pressure, could very quickly drop if that high pressure is slightly different. As we just saw from those operational runs, there are some very conflicting air masses very close together, so I wouldn't be surprised if we did see a lot of movement in the ensembles for that longer range period. But regardless, still looking pretty cold for the foreseeable future, even though some of those milder longer range runs don't get as much above 9 or 10 degrees, lots still keeping us really chilly, and there is the risk of some snow potentially this weekend, and then further snowfall next week. But again, lots of uncertainty with that. And if you finish by looking at the ECMWF, broadly very similar, very cold at the moment, spike in milder temperatures this weekend with that low pressure system, much colder once again next week, and then around Friday next week we do start to get back towards average, but there is still significant discrepancy. Some very cold runs still there, some much milder runs do appear as well. And finally, if we just compare to Glasgow, you can see significant snow here for Scotland. Quite a few of these runs are above 10 centimetres, with some 20, 30 centimetres, and of course Glasgow is low-lying. Across the higher ground, there'll be even more certainty. So we are looking at a major, potentially even historic snow event for some areas in the north. And I know a lot of people will be disappointed watching this, because a lot of people are in the south or in London where we are expecting to see a bit of snow, but nothing too major. Again, can't emphasise this will be very significant, just not where most of the viewers are watching from. And I know some people will be disappointed, others will be glad to see that this snow is going to be further northwards. Again, we'll have to wait and see what happens next week, but of course there is the risk there as well. I'll keep you updated with those weather warnings in the next couple of days. To expect an upgrade for those northern areas, and of course we'll keep you updated on the cold weather as it does return for all into next week. So thanks for watching, hope you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new, and I'll see you again for another video soon.